About 10 or so years ago, I wrote a musical about 16 songs that I intended to be a movie about 90 minutes long, about half that time dedicated to the songs. I wrote the show with scenes that would each contain characters that only appeared in that scene. So I would only need long-term commitments from my two leads, one of which at that time was meant to be me. We had a live read at a local theater. I was pleased with the script, I was pleased with the songs, and I had every intention of moving forward with the project. But I didn't. Life got in the way, work got in the way, new projects came and went. Every few years, I've broken the script out and given it a fresh pass with the intention of doing something with it. But for the most part, for the last 10 years, it's just kind of lived on my hard drive. About 6 years ago, I began to notice that my voice was slipping. Not my speaking voice yet, mostly just my singing voice. But within a couple of years of that, I definitely was not going to be willing to sing in front of anybody. Doctors thought it was acid reflux, gave me some medication for it, but nothing helped, and it continued to just get worse and worse over the next few years. About 2 years ago, I began to notice that it was beginning slowly to affect my speaking voice. Most people wouldn't notice because I know how to push through those problems, but it was definitely starting to scare me. I have finally began to get good help over the last year and find some answers, and we're working through that with some medicine and a few other opportunities out there, but I've also been taking some vocal therapy. As a bit of self-prescribed therapy, I decided I would break out that old musical and tell that story here. I would have one video where I would set the scene, followed by another video where I sang the song, and kind of rotating back and forth. Set the scene, sing the song, set the scene, sing the song, set the scene, sing the song. So that's what I'm going to do. In my next video, I am going to set the scene for the opening number of my musical, The Adventures of Alice and Peter in Grownup-Land. The Adventures of Alice and Peter in Grownup-Land is a musical about Alice from Alice in Wonderland and Peter from Peter Pan, who grow up as friends in a modern-day non-magical United States of America. They meet up again as adults and go on an adventure that causes them to question the costs and the consequences and the meaning of modern-day adulthood. We first meet Peter, about 8 or 9 years old, staring out his bedroom window as his parents argue in the background. Through the window, we see Alice, about a year or two younger than him, wearing a cheap Princess Halloween costume and holding her pet rabbit. A group of bullies approach Alice with various weapons, baseball bats, switchblades, chains, and begin to threaten her and her little pet rabbit. Peter flies out of nowhere and knocks the first bully over, taking his baseball bat and crowing. He chases off most of the rest of the bullies, but then ends up in a duel with the ringleader who's holding a switchblade. The duel ends when Peter smashes the bully's hand with his baseball bat. The bully runs away, screaming and cradling his hand. Peter sits down next to Alice and asks if she's okay. She says she's fine and comforts her scared but unharmed rabbit. She thanks him and says that she wants to give him a kiss. Peter's 8 or 9 years old, so he cringes, but he closes his eyes and puckers up. And Alice places a thimble in his hand. Surprised, Peter looks at the thimble and Alice says, "If you're good, when you're a grown-up, I'll let you give me a kiss in return." But Peter sadly looks back at his unhappy home and says, "I'm never growing up." The years pass, Alice and Peter grow apart, and we meet Peter well into his adulthood, sitting bored out of his mind in a cubicle, surrounded by other cubicles, staring at a clock that says 4:59. And that's how we begin our first song, Growing Up. All right, The Adventures of Alice and Peter in Grownup-Land, Track 1, Growing Up. Will this day never end? Come on, clock, why won't you spin? That's where that little hand has been for hours. It's the same every day. We hi-ho our lives away for food and clothes and place to stay. That's us. It's not at all what we believed life would be when we grew older. It's not at all how we thought things would end for us. 'Cause nobody dreams of 9 to 5s in cubicles. If we did, nobody would dream of growing up. We are all of us the same, cookie cutters with no names, pawns in someone else's game of life. We are puppets on our strings, fulfilling other people's dreams for baby, house, and dog, and ring for wife. It's not at all what I believed life would be when I grew older. It's not at all how I thought things would all end up. 'Cause nobody dreams of 9 to 5s in cubicles. This is why I had never dreamed of growing up. Now this is a dream we're meant to dream. You can keep it, you can keep it. If this is me growing up. If this is the next 30 years, you can keep it, you can keep it. If this is me growing up. There must be more to life than this. Days of work and nights of trysts is meaning something I have given up. It's not at all what we believed life would be when we grew older. It's not at all how we thought things would end for us. 'Cause nobody dreams of 9 to 5s in cubicles. If we did, nobody would dream of growing up. When the hell did I finally end up growing up? So the song Growing Up ends, Peter clocks out, and we immediately find ourselves in a scene where we are cutting between Alice's apartment and Peter's apartment. Now, this is the first time we've actually seen grown-up Alice, and if you were to read my most recent version of the script, about 3 or so years old, you will see that I actually refer to Alice as Hispanic. So when I was writing this newer version of the script, I began to ask myself, who would I actually like to play these roles if I could pick anybody I wanted? Now, when you think of Alice, normally you think, traditional, pretty little blonde girl. And so I begin to think, if I'm going to pitch this with an actor in mind, who fits that description that can also act and can also sing? And there's a number of actors in Hollywood that fit that description and would have done an amazing job, but none of them really stuck. So I started to ask myself, well, if I took that out, took the stereotype out, took, preconceived notions out, and I just opened it up to whoever is right, then who can play that role? And immediately the first and last name that popped into my head was Rosario Dawson. I've been a big fan of hers for years. She can act, she can sing. She kind of reminds me of my wife, which is a big plus because my wife is kind of awesome. So in my mind, ever since then, if you ask me who would play, who am I thinking of when I'm writing Alice, it's Rosario Dawson. Now, we find Alice and Peter in their respective apartments, sitting in their living rooms on their couches, and being spoken to by their best friends. For Alice, it is Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. And with Peter, it is Chaz, aka Prince Charming. They are trying to convince them that it is time to stop moping around and have a night out on the town. And that leads us into our next song, Yellow Brick Road. The Adventures of Alice and Peter in Grownup-Land, Track 2, Yellow Brick Road. I know this last year has been hard for you. Sometimes you fall, so you get back up again. I know you think no one knows what you're going through. Maybe that's true, but please listen to your friend. I know there's more of what life has in store. We don't always get a yellow brick road. Our direction isn't always so clear. Sometimes over the rainbow is just too damn far from here. Yesterday is gone. Stand up strong. No more looking back, start moving on. Peter, you've been in this funk too long. Listen to me, I know just what you need. A few drinks, a few girls, tonight we can do no wrong. We'll fight like beasts, and my friend, we will live like kings. Stop pining for more than what tonight has in store. They don't all show up in white pumpkins, can't spot them by the glass on their feet. If you want to meet the girl of your dreams, gotta get back on the street. The night is young and we've just begun to rock this fairy tale until we're done. You don't understand, I know you mean well, but what you think is fun is some kind of hell. It's been so long and it's all going wrong. I had a plan for what my life could be, but life came and went, and as you can see, I'm broken, I'm tossed. I feel so lost. We don't always get a yellow brick road. Our direction isn't always so clear. Sometimes over the rainbow is just too damn far from here. Yesterday is gone. Stand up strong. No more looking back, start moving on. So the song Yellow Brick Road ends, and Peter and Alice are reluctantly convinced by their respective best friends to agree to a night out on the town. We follow Peter as he gets off the couch and heads into his bedroom to take his keys and his wallet off of his dresser. But while he's there, he sees in the stack of items the thimble from the first scene. He picks it up and looks at it for a moment, almost a little confused, and then goes ahead and tosses it in his pocket with the rest of his stuff. Now, a little while back, I explained how and why I came to the conclusion that if I were to make this with whatever cast I wanted, that Alice would be played by Rosario Dawson. And I just kind of left it that, 10 years ago when I created the first version of the screenplay that I would play Peter myself. Now, that ship has sailed. That window of opportunity has come and gone. So when I came up with the idea that if I was pitching the concept to someone and they said, hey, Dreamcast, who would you like to see in the show? And I came up with the idea that Rosario Dawson would be Alice. I came up with the idea that Zachary Levi should play Peter. Now, the way I got there is not nearly as cool of a story of enlightenment as coming to the conclusion of Rosario Dawson. It's very simple. I wrote Peter for myself. And you know how sometimes, when you close your eyes, you kind of envision this perfected version of yourself that is better than you've ever been, better than you'll ever be, but still this mental image that you have of who you kind of wish you were. Zachary Levi's is about as close to my mental image as I've seen in a real person. He's a better singer, a better actor. He's more charming, definitely much better looking. And since Peter was written for me and he's like the idealized version of me that I see when I close my eyes, then he would be my ideal casting for Peter. Now, Peter and Chaz and Alice and Dorothy find themselves in the same rundown bar in the downtown area. And Chaz and Dorothy hit the dance floor, leaving Peter and Alice alone for a moment. And after a moment of awkward conversation, they realize who it is that they've run into, a friend that they have not seen in around 25 years. Now, keep in mind, this is 25 years from the last time they saw each other, which is not that opening scene. So they are more than 25 years older than the last time we saw them. They probably, went through middle school together, high school together. They likely finished growing apart sometime in their late teens. So it has been a good bit of time since the last time that they saw each other. This would put them probably in late 30s, early 40s, which is older than they would have been if it's 25 years after that opening scene. So that is important to keep in mind if you're trying to keep the mental image in your head of what these two should look like and what life experience that they've had in this time period. Peter, excited that he's met an old friend, offers to buy her a drink. She agrees. And so Peter heads to the bar, but while Alice watches him go to the bar, she has a little bit of a panic attack and she rushes outside for some air and to sing the song So I Wish, the first real solo in the show. The Adventures of Alice and Peter in Grownup-Land, Track 3, So I Wish. Is it time to let go? Have I held on too long? Is everyone right? Is it time to move on? The past seems so fresh, and the future seems so far. And the pain burns as brightly as a star. Why does no one else see? Why does no one else know? Scars that run the most deep are the ones that don't show. There's a cut deep inside, I'm scared we'll never heal. A love no one will ever feel. So I wish upon a star, I throw one more quarter in the well. Please hear my cry. Won't the fates smile upon my broken dreams and shattered hopes? Oh God, please tell me why. I once thought I had found my own fairy tale. Love I thought was so strong, I found to be frail. Can I now go and try my hand again? Can I live the way I lived back then? It's not fair, it's not right. My story wasn't meant to end like this. Turns out all the tales are lies. Ever after ends in heartbreak, not a kiss. So I wish upon a star, I throw one more quarter in the well. Please hear my cry. Won't the fates smile upon my broken dreams and shattered hopes? Oh God, please tell me why. As Alice sings her song, Peter walks out of the bar, drink in each hand. But when he notices that she's kind of having a moment, he decides to hang back and give her a minute to herself before approaching. Then Alice abruptly ends her song as, out of nowhere, a man in a white tracksuit, who is not a rabbit, but whom we will refer to as the White Rabbit, grabs her purse and bolts. Alice stands there shocked for a moment, and Peter runs up behind her, takes off after the guy, but shortly comes back, says, "Hey, sorry you got away. Would you like me to call the police?" Alice says no. By the time the police get here, he will be long gone, and she begins to run after him. Now, this is important to me because if you read the book Alice in Wonderland, Alice does not really make decisions. She's a little girl, it's understandable, but she sees the White Rabbit, she chases after him because neat, and then when she gets into Wonderland, she just sort of wanders from adventure to adventure. Her decisions do not lead her forward. She's curious and she wanders. You could have almost called it Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. But you get the impression through things that she has said and things that she will say over the course of the show that she's kind of lived her life like that. She just wanders from life event to a life event, doing the things that are expected of her, trying to be a good girl, and it hasn't turned out well. Now, at this moment, though, she says, no, this cannot happen. He cannot come take this from me. We don't know the importance of this yet, but he cannot take this from me. And she decides to chase him down and get what is hers back. Now, Peter chases after her, briefly tries to talk a little sense into her, asks what's so important about this purse, does not get an answer, but he doesn't really take a whole lot of convincing. He follows her, but it is Alice's decision from this point on. Though Peter may be her hero, she is the one who will, through her decisions, drive the story forward. So as they chase the White Rabbit, who always seems to stay just a little bit ahead of them, turning corners and leading them into a shadier and shadier part of town, Alice and Peter begin their adventures in Grownup-Land as they sing Down the Rabbit Hole. The Adventures of Alice and Peter in Grownup-Land, Track 4, Down the Rabbit Hole. Run, don't think. Jump, don't worry. Act, don't hesitate. Come on now, hurry. I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe you're here, coming to my rescue like it was yesteryear. Now run, now jump, now act, let's go. Down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole. Wait, don't rush. What's the hurry? A life of bad decisions makes you worry. I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe you're here. It feels like old times again, living without fear. And now run, now jump, now act, let's go. Down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole. Have the last 25 years prepared me for tonight? Been sitting in that cubicle just itching for a fight. I'm not the girl I was before, I'm not the boy you knew back then, but once upon a time awaits. Get ready, here we go again. I can't believe we're doing this, it's happening so fast. I feel like a child again, if only it could last. Now run, now jump, now act, let's go. Down the rabbit hole, 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 down the rabbit hole.